Hi, and welcome to Alaskan in the Philippines, currently in Thailand. Well, yesterday I went to get my hair cut. Went to see my friend. She took care of me. She spent an hour and a half. She's real meticulous, does a great job. Uh, Got a haircut, and I told her, do whatever you want. She gave me the work, so ended up costing a little more. I let her go at it, help support her. She's been pretty busy though. So anyway, I'm here now, and I wanted to talk about what smoke's been moving in here recently. Just the past couple of days, I didn't expect it here because we have a nice ocean breezes that really blow hard all day long. You really don't release a drop of sweat. It's been pretty nice here, but all of a sudden the smoke rolled in yesterday over the mountains, and I notice and smell it. It's kind of getting intense. I don't know if it's going to get worse or better. They say it's the rice fields burning. I expected it up north like Chiang Mai. I figured they'd have it up north or somewhere, but I didn't quite expect it from here. But you know, when you think about it, Burma's just right over these mountains over here, and they're probably burning in Burma and Cambodia or wherever too. So all the wind that blows this way, it's blowing it to us. I don't think it's local burning, but it could. I don't know. I don't see around here. I see mostly pineapple fields, rubber plantations, and that oil, that some kind of palm oil trees. They grow a lot of those, yeah. So, but I don't know. There's probably rice too. I see some rice, so maybe they're burning, clearing the fields. But yeah, the smoke is getting a little more, and hopefully it don't get too bad. Now all these masked people make sense, whereas before I was like, why is everybody wearing masks? Even though they didn't need to. But now it kind of makes sense. But I still ain't gonna wear no masks unless it gets really, really bad. And then who knows, maybe I'll just take a vacation, go back to the Philippines. If it gets real smoky here, I might do that. Even though the Philippines smokes up every evening and night, you can get away from it. Gets away from it. You know, during Darwin Beach, you can get away from it usually. So anyway, but yeah, the smoke's pouring in, and you know what? Back in Alaska, I was a wildland firefighter. You know, the BLM service, the Bureau of Land Management, used to go in and hire out of the native villages. They hire firefighters because they know how to camp and stuff. You know, the people where I lived, in the Eskimos, they lived the whole summer in a tent along the river fishing. So they know. All my friends were half their life in a wall tent, a canvas wall tent with a wood stove, and they cooked with primer stoves and stuff. They were really down to earth, so they fit right into the role real easy. The government realized that, so they hire up all these native Alaskans, and they do it in the lower 48 too. They hired up the local Apaches and all the local Indians, Blackfeet. And when we'd go, we'd get a whole crew. They'd come in the spring and we had to do a step test. We had to pass the step test, so we'd climb up and down on this box, and they'd take our heart rate. And then if we passed some stupid, I don't know how they measured it, but then if you passed, they'd take you. When a fire came up in the summer, they'd call the crew boss and ask if you can get a crew together and fly out and come. They'll send a plane to come pick us up, and usually we get at least 16 guys. You had to have at least 16, and they'd fly us up to Fairbanks, and then there was, you know, fire camps, main fire camps up there in Galena, Alaska. They'd hang out there, and any of the big cities had a big fire base usually. And from there, they'd send us all the way down to the lower 48. Like, they'd send us down to Washington, Idaho, Oregon, California when they had fires. So I'd go down. I've only done a few of them, but I've done one down to Washington. That was cool. 29, we stay 30 days camped down there, and then we go up in the mountains every day and fight the fires. It was 16 hours a day, real hard, hot work a lot of the time. Smoky, always smoky. And then we'd come down. It was cool in the mountains. Luckily, it was cooler up there. Even though the fires were up there, it was cooler. Smoky all the time, so I got kind of used to that. Living 30 days, and then we camped down in the lower. They'd put up camp in a high school football field. That's what that one was in Washington. And we stay there with all the other fire crews, hot shot crews and stuff that would all congregate there. It was like these 2,000 firefighters. It was really cool camp. You were catered to. They had everything set up. You know, the local people would come out and donate stuff. They'd be set up, free dentists, free massages, free clothing, free socks, and then the government, or they'd pull in a tractor trailer full of ice cream, just stuff. That was ice cream. You could walk up, it was just like an open store, and you could take anything you wanted, and everything was free. So it was pretty cool. And they'd feed you hot meals in those big camps. But then if we were flying out, like in Alaska, if we had a fire in Alaska, we're out in the middle of nowhere, they actually put us on helicopters and fly us out into the mountains on Huey helicopters with the doors open. It was cool. It's just like Vietnam. I'd never been there, but it was cool. We'd fly right over the barley fields in Alaska, buffalo and moose and stuff down there. And they'd drop us off up in a mountain area where a small fire was, and we'd try to get it contained and put out before it gets too big and spreads into a big fire. So they'd drop a few crews of us off up in the mountains. That was always cool. But when we were up in the mountains, they'd only feed us MREs. Those are those military meals, and they'd kick out cases of those, and that was our breakfast, lunch, and dinner for about 4 days. And every 4 days they'd fly in, the choppers would fly in and bring us fresh food, which would be bananas, fruit, and candy bars, steaks, hamburgers, and stuff we'd cook on the fires, you know. And so I think it was every 4 days we'd get fresh food flown in. And it was good. We lived out there in our tents and stuff. So these natives, they really knew what they were doing. They knew how to camp, and they knew how to keep dry and keep clean. Like the other crews, like the Washington boys, if they weren't hotshot crews, they didn't know how to take care of themselves. They didn't know how to stay clean. They didn't know how to stay dry and keep their bedding dry and stuff. So it was kind of, these natives really outshined when it came to camping out there. The Eskimos and the Indians don't get along. They do now, but they all have a big native congregation every year where they all get together and stuff. But there was time when it was war with the Eskimos and the Indians, and that feeling still existed. When I would travel, I was fighting fire. I was with the Yupik Eskimos. The Yukon River area has a dividing point. Downriver is along the coast is the Yupik Eskimos, and upriver is the Athabaskan Indians. And we would fight fire. I would go between the two. I was traveling. I know people in both Indian and Eskimo. I traveled up fur buying up in the Indian area, but I was living 40 some years down in the Eskimo area. But you could see a little bit of tension on the bus and stuff. The Indians would open up the windows and smoke cigarettes right on the bus and dust out us crew in the back, the Eskimo crew. We'd have to sit in the back. And you could hear them, and they would be rude to them and say, "Back at the bus, Mo's," they'd tell the Eskimos. And the Eskimos are real peaceful. They'll just hang their head and kind of go by and go to the back of the bus. So I told them one day, I said, from now on, and they'd open the windows and all the dust would come in and dust everybody out on the way home from the fire. And we just been chewing dust for 16 hours. You're out 16 hours. So one time I told everybody, I said, let's get on the front of the bus this time. We'll load early and everybody get in the front of the bus and we'll open our windows. They were like, yeah, okay. So we did. We all got in, opened and the Holy Cross, that was the upriver Indian, Yukon River Indians, Holy Cross guys were, and I know a bunch of those guys now. I got to know them real good, but they were in the back this time. They were pissed. They had to sit in the back. They were grumbling under their breath when they were walking by. Fucking Mo's. They didn't like each other. They really didn't like the Eskimos because they were kind of rich. The Eskimos had rich fishing, and the Indians kind of poor upriver. So there was that. And anyway, and then the Eskimos came up and hunted on the Indians' land. They didn't like that either. So there was that friction too. So anyway, we opened the windows on the way back and dusted the Indians out. And man, they were pissed. They were cussing. They were yelling, "You shut those windows!" And the Eskimos gave them a good dose of their own medicine. And I finally told them, all right, let's shut the windows, guys. So we made our point, and they shut the windows. And they never did do that again to us that whole time. But that was fun life out working out there. We'd stay out there a couple weeks, 30 days at a time. Now they only stay 2 weeks. They got them pretty wussified, but they don't have to stay the long time like I did. But we were making good money. We'd go home, we'd have a nice fat $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000 check for the month. That was big money to us this was back in the 90s, so it was quite a while ago. And a lot of it's changed. The one time the Hueys came in to drop us off food in the mountains, and the Huey was taking off, and I was standing there, I was unloading the stuff, and they were on a little bit of a hill. They land with like one skid on the side of the hill, and the other skid just didn't balance out in the air, and they're unloading like that. So we shucked them off and got all our fresh grub off. And the guy was pulling up to take off, and he was pulling up on the collective to take off, but his skid was stuck under a root like that. I could see it, and he couldn't see it. I could tell he couldn't see it. He pulled up, and he tried to pull up, but it would roll the bird over a little bit, and he'd set it back down level, and he'd look around, and he'd look down, he couldn't see it, and he'd try to take off again, and it would turn his helicopter up like that. And I was watching him, I finally pointed to him, and I pointed that root, it was stuck underneath like that, and he was able to back out and go up and around and take off. But that was pretty freaky. And then he told me, he goes, watch, and he just went, pulled the collective, and they can just shoot up like a torpedo. It was just amazing. He just went up out of sight. He told a bunch of our stuff blew around, but it was cool. He told us, watch, right up and out of sight. But it was a cool experience. One of the many jobs that I had throughout my life. And yeah, I hope it don't get too smoky here in Thailand, because if it does, I'd kind of hate to live next 4 months in it. So I may take a vacation. I was under the impression this Hua Hin area wasn't going to be as bad as Chiang Mai, and up there they must be getting smoked out too in Bangkok. So this ain't too bad yet. It's just a haze for now, and I could smell it in the evening when it settled in a little bit, but it ain't burning my eyes or lungs yet. So if it don't get any worse than this, I'm not going to sweat it. But if it does, I may bail out of it and go to the Philippines for a month or so. We'll see. Well, anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.